So Biochar Life really is on a mission to healing our planet by engaging smallholder farmers. So briefly, we started in 2022 as a spin out from a nonprofit called Warm Heart Worldwide. It's a community-led NGO operating for about 15 years in developing countries, doing supporting the abandoned elderly, children's home, but also working with smallholder farmers on sustainable agriculture. And about 10 years ago, initiated the Stop the Smoke campaign in northern Thailand. As we all kind of experience sometimes here in Singapore, open field burning generates a lot of smoke. And so we trained a lot of those farmers to stop the burn and convert their waste biomass into biochar fertilizer. So impact to date, so Biochar Life really is trying to help smallholder farmers engage the carbon markets to generate additional income for their families and for their communities. So since 2022, we've worked with and trained over 20,000 farmers across multiple developed countries or developing countries. Of that, over 1,600 of them have created carbon sinks, certified carbon sinks, and have generated income from that activity along with the biochar fertilizer impact to their crops. We've employed over 100 people, most of them in rural communities, which have high unemployment rate. So we're having, additional economic impact besides just the farmers. And you guys can read kind of the other stats there with the CO2 sequestered. Again, this is durable carbon removed, so 21,000 tons durable, so more than 1,000 years. And then finally, nearly $1 million in carbon credit proceeds distributed back to either the farmers directly or to the community and employment. So we try to direct at least 70 to 80% of every dollar from carbon credit sales back to the farmer or community. So a lot of people ask, what is biochar and how does it remove carbon? So it's a very common question. Biochar is a pretty amazing material. You can do a lot of cool things with it, but the first step to making biochar is you need Mother Nature's direct air capture, i.e. photosynthesis. That is the capture part to making biochar. When the plant grows, it absorbs the CO2 to make the plant, and then when the plant dies, in our case, it's agricultural waste like corn stalks or corn cob, but it could be tree prunings, any type of waste biomass. You take it through pyrolysis. And pyrolysis is just kind of a fancy way of saying really high temperature with very little oxygen. And when you do that with biomass, you create almost pure carbon, 70 to 80% sometimes carbon. And it has amazing materials and capabilities. We mostly use it for agricultural, like biochar fertilizer, but you'll hear shortly about how it could be used as a cement amendment, water filtration, the list goes on and on. But then it also has tremendous long-term carbon removal capabilities because that carbon is really locked up in most cases, if done properly, up to 1,000 plus years. So it really is long-term carbon removal. So in addition to all of those benefits earlier, the other aspect to our projects with working with smallholder farmers in developing countries is the prevention of open field burning, like I mentioned earlier. This creates a significant amount of health impact, a lot of deaths each year because they inhale the PM 2.5. Again, we experience this here, but this is happening all over the world with smallholder farmers because the quickest way to remove their brush from the land is just to open field burn it. But that creates a lot of additional emissions. So there's carbon removal, but there's also these health benefits by preventing the open field burning. So each and every one of you probably knows farmers or someone with some waste biomass, so you all can be, participants in a biochar project. There's really, three major components to doing a biochar project. You need some type of waste biomass. Again, it could be agricultural, it could be, chicken, droppings, whatever. You can convert that into biochar through a pyrolysis method, which is step number 2. Pyrolysis methods could be very high tech, which we'll hear a little bit about, which is some pretty cool stuff. But it could also be low tech. A lot of common solutions that we use in the field are $50 to make, and it makes quality biochar. So anybody can do it. So if you know someone with some waste biomass, introduce them to biochar. But once you have the biochar made, then you need a matrix to apply it in. So you want to apply it like into the soil, cement, other solutions that have a long-term carbon removal effect. So once you have those 3 components, you have a viable biochar project. Now, as you migrate your biochar project to a carbon removal project, there's really 3 critical success factors that you need to include. Number 1, top of the list every time, is community engagement. You've got to work with village elders. You've got to work with farmers to just do some pilot lots. Tell them to try it for 1 or 2 seasons and let them experience the benefit of biochar fertilizer. Some of these farmers don't even have chemical fertilizer, so they will see some great impact very shortly. But even if they're using chemical fertilizer, they don't have to use as much, and it saves them money. Once you have that community impact, then you need to engage local people, trainers, inspectors to do the monitoring, reporting, and verification of that activity. So all of our farmers are trained to make and apply the biochar on their land, but then we hire local inspectors to go out there to their land to record pictures, documentation of that activity to ensure that it's certified. And we use people and digital MRV. MRV is maybe a term that some people haven't heard yet, monitoring, reporting, and verification. Certainly a digital MRV is very important, but none of that happens without people. So you definitely need to make sure that you're properly training and engaging your local team on the right processes for monitoring. Then once you have that, then the third one is methodologies. Methodologies are definitely very important. There's lots of them mentioned already, Vera, CSI, Puro. There are more and more coming out that have biochar related methodologies. So certainly consider those. They give you the scientific framework and steps to ensure that your project is following the right steps. But you also need to adapt your projects with your own internal methodologies, because each project is a little bit different and you have some best practices that you may want to consider. So from a business model and impact model, it's pretty straightforward. We help the farmers learn about biochar, make the biochar carbon removal credits. We certify those, and then we go sell them. We generate revenue from those carbon credits and distribute about 70 to 80% of those monies either back to the farmers directly or to the local community, and then the remainder is for administration and ongoing development. And then this naturally creates empowerment for the farmers, because they generate some additional income from the carbon credits, but more importantly, they also are generating increased crop yields from that biochar fertilizer. So they're increasing food for their family, and they're increasing more food to sell in the market, which generates more income. And then this also has a multiplier effect on their families, because they can use that income to send their children to school, which is one of the #1 uses of these carbon credit proceeds. Medicine is another common usage. So it does have a significant impact on the community. So briefly on the CDR landscape, this thing could have about 10 slides. Trying to do it in one is practically impossible. Some presentations earlier, I think, touched on a variety of topics, but biochar is kind of in a nice sweet spot in the durable carbon removal space in the carbon market. It fits well, because if you're looking for a durable carbon removal solution quickly, like this year, it can do that. That's kind of one of the benefits of biochar. You don't have to wait 20 years for a tree to grow, though we love trees, okay? And you don't need a multi-million-dollar direct air capture machine that may take several years to deploy. Every harvest, you could be making biochar, putting it into the ground, and removing carbon. So it does have some nice benefits. The other thing that we've learned is that buyers of carbon removal credits like third-party validation. CDR.FYI is a popular one that aggregates a lot of the project data, customer data, but there's also, brokers, auditors that are out there that provide kind of that independent view. So certainly encourage, if you are going to launch a biochar project, engage these organizations. And then for the addressable market, it's big. It needs to be a lot bigger for us to, achieve the targets that we need. So, definitely, hopefully that continues to grow. So it takes a village to build anything. So we've had a very open collaboration policy. We're founded by a nonprofit. We're owned by a nonprofit. So open collaboration is kind of our mantra. We share all of our learnings, share all of our training materials. We're also fully transparent on our production. So if you go to our website, you can see every one of our carbon sinks. You can see every one of our farmers' activities by country. So, we believe that transparency will kind of set you free, even though we do need third-party validation. But we encourage every one of our buyers and investors to just go to our website, look at the pictures that we take, proving that the farmer is putting biochar into the ground and yielding the great benefits. So some good collaboration. SDGs, I think that these were kind of pretty straightforward. Certainly climate action, but, want to touch on like no poverty, and the impact to families. I can't stress that enough with these types of projects. There really are changing the lives of these families and these communities. So, every biochar project is important, but these really do have, that triple bottom line impact with the world. And you don't have to take my word for it. You can talk to the farmers. We have lots of testimonials on our websites. They love to show off. They love to, these are snow peas from RISPER. So they are really, big believers in biochar and, the impact that it brings. So kind of leave with three final thoughts. Hopefully I'm on time. First off, we need to balance, the tech and the people. This has been kind of our recent observations being in the marketplace for a few years. Tech is always important. We need to continue to innovate always. But, we can't forget about the people engagement involved with new innovations, but also executing these type projects. If you're doing an MBS, there's no way you can get around working with people. So let's definitely make sure there's right balance there. The other is, scalable simplicity. And what I mean by that is, and I think it was mentioned on the panel just moments ago, there's a lot of methodologies and requirements and steps that each project has to go through just to get to the third step or fourth step. And it can be very, very overwhelming. And so I think that's good. We want to make sure we're prudent and doing the right thing with these projects. But it can be, I think swinging a little bit further to the wrong direction or too much work, if you will, and it can be very intimidating. So trying to simplify that as much as possible. So if you're a participant in the marketplace, I think that's something just to share. Finally, urgent action. That's, no surprise to anybody. We're well behind the curve on trying to get things done from a climate change perspective. So we definitely need to continue to accelerate our efforts to address climate change. There was a phrase I recently heard that just really irked me a bit, which was carbon hushing. And it's like, why are we telling companies to hush? Basically, the concept is companies are hesitant to share projects that they're investing in because they may have the Guardian write up about them, okay? Which obviously, if they're doing fraudulent stuff, there should be, solid reporting on it. But now they're hesitant to bring this stuff and encourage more and more people to do it. So we need to stop carbon hushing, and we need to be carbon applauding these types of organizations, and really supporting them whenever they do kind of lean in and do the right thing with these types of projects. We should, be trying to support them as much as possible. So, and I think that's it. So thank you very much.